One of the most important aspects of Ponseti's method was the tenotomy that he described. It is not a TA lengthening. It is not a Z-plasty. It's not a technique where you do a 3-incision technique. It is a clear, complete transection of the tendon of tendoachilles. Because Ponseti recognized the fact that tendoachilles is a very, very tough structure which is inelastic and does not allow correction of equinus by manipulation. It has to be transected. Complete transected tendon regenerates completely. And he was the first one to recognize that it regenerates completely even after transection. So, you score the child, every child you do the manipulation and casting at every visit, which is a weekly visit. Why weekly? Why not 2 weekly? Why not 1 weekly? That's because the retractile fibrosis gets more stretchable in about 4 to 6 days time. Less than 4 days, it doesn't get its elasticity back. More than 2 weeks, it can become stiff by continued immobilization. So the stretchability is important, and that is there in a week's time, and also it's convenient to run clinics on a weekly basis rather than on different staggered timings. So weekly change of cast, scoring every time, and when the midfoot score is less than 1 and hindfoot score is more than 1, the child is ready for a tenotomy. Why don't you say midfoot score of 0? That's because all children, the medial crease does not disappear. However, remember, midfoot score of lateral border must be 0 and talar head must be 0. What is not 0 is possibly a medial crease. So that's a midfoot score of less than 1 and a hindfoot score of more than 1. Why more than 1? Because the rigid equinus may have come over a period of time to 90 degrees of correction. But no dorsiflexion should be done. It should be corrected only by tenotomy. So that could be a 0.5. When the equinus is corrected, not corrected, empty heel will be 0.5 or 1. That's again more than 1. The posterior crease may or may not be 0.5 or 0, but usually it's 0.5 at the time of tenotomy. So by the time when your foot is ready for a tenotomy, the hindfoot score is less than 1, around 0.5 because of middle crease and not because of talar head, not because of lateral border, and it is hindfoot score with equinus, usually 1 rigid equinus, usually 1 empty heel, and usually 0.5 posterior crease. 2.5 hindfoot score is the usual score. You do this under local anesthesia. Some people argue the child is quieter with general anesthesia, but please remember, general anesthesia is risky. General anesthesia also need to get an IV line, which is difficult in children, and the complications of general anesthesia are far too many, which we do not want. Local anesthetic given with the BCG number 26 needle, 1 centimeter above the insertion of the tendoachilles. Remember, if the foot that is equinus, if you see the tendoachilles is inserted there, if it's inserted there and you cut close to the tendon insertion, you will cut into the cartilage. Cartilage is avascular, anervous, does not heal, and you will have problems of growth anomalies in the cartilage. Therefore, it has to be at least a centimeter above. See, if this is an insertion of the tendoachilles, see that about a centimeter above is a wide gap there between the tibia and this, and it's far away from the neurovascular bundle. It's a complete transaction. Give a local anesthetic, that's the tendoachilles, local anesthetic here, in front, in the back, and in front of the tendoachilles. Using a number 15 blade, insert it straight and turn it around 90 degrees. Press the tendon against the blade, it cuts on its own. Because tendon is tough, just pressing against the sharp blade cuts it. You don't have to do any seesaw movement, or you don't have to knife it like a knife. Just press the tendon against the knife, it cuts. It's a complete transaction. Once it is a complete transaction, you will almost feel or hear the assistant will tell you, sir, yes, there is a pop. And that pop confirms the tenotomy, and immediately dorsiflexion will happen. The foot will go into dorsiflexion. That's a complete tenotomy. In that position, in as much abduction as possible, usually in a child who is an infant, the abduction is about 60 to 70 degrees after tenotomy, not before. It never comes to 60 degrees of abduction or 70 degrees of abduction before tenotomy. It comes only after tenotomy. Before tenotomy, it may be about 30 degrees of abduction. After tenotomy, it's about 60 degrees of abduction and more than 10 degrees of dorsiflexion. Put a cast above knee, groin to toe with the foot in maximum dorsiflexion possible and maximum abduction possible.